Thank you for taking time to watch this video to understand your role in protecting yourself, your workers and co-workers, your neighbors, and the environment as you do your day-to-day construction work. In this video, we will cover the following. You will understand the environmental contaminants produced on the typical work site, why it is important to protect yourself and others from contaminants, and methods for containing the contaminants. So what are typical contaminants produced at the work site? We have polycarbonate materials and microplastics from items such as vinyl siding, vinyl railing, tracks, AZAC, and PVC pipes, just to name a few. Silica dust from cutting and grinding pavers and cement products. And of course, we have fiberglass. These contaminants make their way into the air, soil, stormwater, watershed, and ultimately into our bodies either from being inhaled, ingested, or rubbed onto our skin. We will start by reviewing the health hazards of the majority of contaminants produced on a typical construction site. The health effects of microplastics. Microplastics have been detected in numerous organ systems, including the cardiovascular, digestive, endocrine, respiratory, and urinary systems. They've been found in body fluids like the blood, placenta, breast milk, and also in organs such as brain, heart, lungs, kidney, and liver. Microplastics can become airborne and ingested by any mammal that breathes, such as humans, cats, dogs, bunnies, and other animals found in our environment. Once in our waterways, not only do they pose pollution issues that can be visible, they can travel thousands of miles and contaminate our marine life, which ultimately end up in our food supply chain. So how do they get into our rivers, streams, oceans, bays, and natural water resources? One of the ways is by our storm drains. If a contractor does not clean up their debris, it can go into our street and then ultimately end up down our storm drains and into our water. Once there, it takes hundreds or thousands of years to decompose. The health effects of silica dust. Silica dust comes from many sources, including concrete, mortar, bricks, ceramic, terracotta tiles, manufactured stones such as pavers, roof tiles, grouts, and joint compounds. Inhaling crystalline silica dust is a serious health hazard. Most notably, it causes silicosis, an irreversible and potentially fatal lung disease. Silicosis occurs when tiny silica particles lodge into the lungs, triggering inflammation and scar tissue formation called fibrosis. This scarring impairs lung function, leading to shortness of breath, cough, fatigue, and potentially respiratory failure. The severity and progression of silicosis depends on the concentration, duration, and type of silica exposure. Beyond silicosis, crystalline silica is a known hearing carcinogen, significantly increasing the risk of lung cancer. Exposure also raises the likelihood of developing tuberculosis, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, and other respiratory illnesses. Furthermore, silica exposure has been linked to systemic health problems including autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, as well as kidney disease. Preventing exposure through workplace controls like ventilation, wet methods, and respirators, alongside regular medical monitoring, is crucial for protecting workers. The health effects of fiberglass. Fiberglass is a composite material made of fine glass fibers embedded in a resin, and it poses several health risks, primarily through inhalation and skin contact. but most common health effects involve irritation of the skin, eyes, and upper respiratory tract. When fiberglass particles are disturbed, they can become airborne and easily inhaled. These tiny fibers can irritate the lining of the nose, throat, and lungs, leading to coughing, wheezing, sore throat, and difficulty breathing. Similarly, direct contact with fiberglass can cause intense itching, redness, and a rash due to mechanical irritation from the sharp glass fibers. Prolonged or high-level exposure to fiberglass, particularly in occupational settings without proper protective equipment, raises more serious concern. While not definitively classified as a human carcinogen like asbestos, some studies suggest a potential link between long-term inhalation of fiberglass and an increased risk of lung cancer and other respiratory diseases such as fibrosis. The greatest risk with fiberglass is associated with manufacturing, installation, or removal of fiberglass, particularly when dust control measures are inadequate. Wearing appropriate personal protective equipment, including respirators, gloves, eye protection, and protective clothing, is crucial in these situations. Proper ventilation and dust control measures, such as enclosing the space where fiberglass is installed, are also essential to minimize airborne fiberglass particles. What can you do to protect yourself and the environment? To protect yourself from worksite contaminants, the first thing you should do is familiarize yourself with OSHA guidelines and the material safety data sheet on all materials you are working with. It's always good practice to wear protective clothing like a TYVEK suit so you don't get contaminants on your clothes and take them home with you, and also to wear eye protective gear and a mask or respirator. As for protecting the neighborhood and environment, there are many relatively inexpensive and easy-to-use containment equipment available on the market. When setting up for the day, the first thing you should do is put a tarp underneath your tool and have a reusable hood or tent over your tool to contain the contaminants from becoming airborne. The tarp also keeps the contaminants from getting into the soil below. Many saws have a vacuum attachment connection that can be utilized directly onto the saw, or the hood that you're using should have a vacuum attachment port. This port can contain the contaminants and suck them into the vacuum. If you are cutting pavers or other silica-based materials, you should utilize water for the saw and also put a pop-up tent over the tool. When applying fiberglass on the surface such as an outdoor deck, the area should be contained with tarp so that the fiberglass fibers do not spread throughout the neighborhood. At no time should your cleanup of a work site include dumping contaminants into the ground or blowing them into the street. Where can you find these containment devices? Contact your tool manufacturer and ask if they offer special hoods and/or tents for your tools. If the tool manufacturer does not have recommendations, then go to your local hardware store or search for them online. There are many items available. Here are some examples of saw hoods and construction tents. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video to educate yourself on construction hazards and how to keep yourself, your coworkers, your family, your neighborhood, and the environment clean and safe.